Okay, it looks like we're recording. All right, good morning. Welcome, everybody, for just joining us. We have 45 participants on the line. Let's bump that number up to our target of 100. So start sending your texts out, your emails out, making sure your teammates are on the call so that they don't miss this opportunity to hear from none other than Eloy Losada. Now, if you are new to the call or you don't know Eloy's story, before getting started with Renatus, Eloy was actually trapped by the 9-to-5 scam and mirage of financial freedom. He was working in sales and had just lost his jobs, providing for his new family. While he was working, he had been missing his daughter's best years, never going on dates or vacations because the budget was tight. He had a boss to answer to, limited days off, and he started, scraping off his daughter's fund to get by. He wanted to start a business where he was his own boss, so his wife and him came up with an idea to fix furniture, then cars and houses. So, they started looking for real estate education so they could eventually reach their goal. It went to a bunch of real estate seminars and presentations, and all of them were really the same. And he just felt that they were all big scams until, of course, he found Renatus. Now, what eventually attracted him and his wife to Renatus was they found value through velocity banking. Found out that people here were real movers and shakers and really liked the quality of classes. Now, since joining, Eloy has actually paid $30,000 in debt through velocity banking. He's done multiple real estate transactions and has had multiple 5-figure months. And ultimately, he gets to now spend more time with his daughter, Eloy, and his wife. So without further ado, I'd like to present my colleague and good friend, Eloy Losada. Good morning, Eloy. How is your morning going today? Eloy, if you are on mute, we are not able to hear you.
Okay, can you guys hear me now?
We can hear you loud and clear.
Okay, fantastic. Avi, thank you so much. I am so happy to hear you every morning talk and present the presenters and the growth that you've had over the last 2 years has just really been inspiring to me. And I'm not sure I speak for everybody, but I think that I do. Thank you so much for everything that you do behind the scenes to get these phone calls started early in the morning and get the recording so we can watch them later for those that don't have an opportunity early in the morning. So I really appreciate it.
Absolutely, my pleasure.
Okay, well, how's it going, my fellow Renutians? I am, in fact, driving to a 3-day seminar. So I just got back from the Panama trip, and it's time for work. It's time to get back to work in the way that I like to work. One of my favorite ways, excuse the lady, she's telling me where to go. My favorite ways to work the business is to 3-foot rule and to create a warm market. So some of you may have moved into a state or starting a new market where you don't know how to make friends because you want to call you warm market, but you don't have any necessarily in that state. So what you're going to do is find everything that is going on around you networking wise. So these are business networking events. These are self-development events. These are also things like going on Meetup and finding what it is that you like to do. If it's underwater basket weaving, there are groups for you to meet with other people that like to do underwater basket weaving. And so 3-foot ruling is one of my favorite things to do. We'll talk a little bit more about that if you have some questions. Let me pull over here because I want to give you guys some concentrated time for at least the next 20 minutes before I have to be at my final destination. Now, Leaders Retreat. Leaders Retreat was an adventure, and I would say I'm so sad that you guys didn't make it there, but I want to tell you guys that it's not something you want to miss next year. The relationships that you're able to build over the course of 5 days with the top leaders, the top income earners, is really something incredible, to say the least. The inspiration that I gained from being down at Leaders Retreat was amazing. And then, of course, the activities. Us leaders just like you, we're people, and we're really no different. We go through the same exact struggles. And when you get to spend this time away from home, away from business with these leaders, and you realize how similar they are to you realize that you can do this. You can do this just like anybody else, because we have 2 arms, 2 legs, 1 head. Some people may not. You could be missing some limbs, and this business is still for you. Now, I want to talk about some takeaways that I got from Leaders Retreat. There was a training that we had Saturday morning, and during the training, or in fact at the very end of the training, we had the PAC team go up front of the room and start talking to us. Well, really, they started answering some of our questions. I can't remember what the question was, but I remember the answer. And Scott Rowe got up and he said that to be successful in this business, there's really 3 things. And there's the 3 C's. The first is to be committed. The first is to be committed to the business of Renatus. Commitment comes in really one other word for me is having tenacity. When you're committed, you're going to have the tenacity to push and go through everything. I met a young lady. She was on the Monday night founders webinar, which I recommend every single one of you and your IMAs jump on that call to know what's going on and then learn the stories and have a fantastic training towards the end. I met a girl, Cece, from the Minnesota market, and her story was amazing. I mean, she's in her early 20s, absolutely crushing it, starting, has a lot of history when it comes to swimming and college and the way that she was able to come into the education, but at 22 years old with a full-time job with school is still managing to do Renatus, and that to me is 100% commitment. There's people that have some sort of authority in the LDS church as well as have a full family and still manage to flip houses on the side. So there's no excuses for anybody. Now, the other thing was to be consistent. Consistent. A great story of consistency is Michael Huggins, and the continuation. I mean, he's been in the business for 9 years almost, if not 9 years already. And that is pretty that is pretty consistent, if you ask me. There's no wonder why the results that he's receiving are there, because he's been consistent to the process. And the last C was to be creative. To be creative. There was, I don't know how many of you know the story of Dr. G and Sylvia from out, and they're in Arizona now. These guys were in their mid-60s when they lost 65% of their retirement to the crash. Such an amazing story, because Dr. G, had a successful clinic, a marriage counseling clinic for 25 years. I mean, he was getting paid almost $500 an hour. He was counseling individuals that had millions of dollars worth of net worth at times. And a side note, he found the most miserable people on the planet are the most rich, because they didn't have a cause. Now, he did extremely well for his whole entire career, and he was told, and he followed the actions of those who just go ahead and put money into the stock market, into mutual funds. This gentleman had built Christian schools, and he was really making the world a better place with his practice and with the philanthropy that he was involved with. When he lost all of his retirement, the 65% of his retirement during the crash, he was at a loss. He was feeling pissed off and had a lot of resentment towards the world and towards everything, and didn't understand as a man of faith how he could be put in this position. He doubled down and decided that real estate was going to be the way to go. Now, Sylvia, his wife, was not very happy about that, considering when they found the education that they had just filed bankruptcy, and 20 grand was not even a question. Why would we spend $20,000 on? You're going to get us into more debt? And this is what happened. Dr. G got out of his misery and decided that if he doesn't make this happen, nothing's going to happen in his life. He's 65 years old. He's lost absolutely everything. He lived on the last 40% of his retirement for 5 years, but when that ran out, he went into bankruptcy. At that point, he found Renata's. Most would say that the money is too much. He saw the bigger picture. He saw the vision. Now the cause in which he's involved in, which is to empower and equip 1 million families with the tools, resources, and support necessary to become financially free through real estate. Dr. G does not lack any creativity. And this is an idea and a story for you guys to be inspired and know that each IMA that's struggling to find the money is not being created enough. Because if they're committed to the process, the money just... Dr. G had lost everything, and he called 7 people that he knew from the past that might remember how he used to run business. He also had a radio talk show about the marriage counseling. There's a lot of details in there that you have to find out by talking to him. And how do you find out? Leaders retreat, nationals, regionals. He called 7 people and he came up with a proposal because he didn't want to ask anybody for money. We don't ask for money. We come up with win-win situations. His idea was, I have a real estate business and I will let you buy into my real estate business, $25,000 buy. What's in it for you? Well, in it for you is 50% of my first real estate deal and 30% of my following 2 real estate deals. He already got into the business of being rejected, which is what we have to deal with on a daily basis. But his vision was a lot stronger than his insecurities about getting a rejection. He knew what he wanted to do, and nothing would get in the way. He talks to one gentleman, no, I don't want to do this. The next, no, I don't want to do this. And that followed, and it followed, and it followed until the 7th person. And she agreed. She agreed, and within 4 or 5 months, Dr. G had his first deal that netted a sweet 5 figures, which he split the profits with his partner. Shortly after there, did another deal, and soon enough did another one. Needless to say, she continued to lend money and is a, really nice person to have in the community as well. There is no way that if someone like Dr. G in this situation at 65
Debbie, can you let me in, please?
could make something like this happen without being creative. So I
put a request in this morning to get my badge replaced. I'm waiting for them to call.
I don't know if you guys
I don't
hear
know where
that.
I lost that thing at.
We have someone off of
Thank
mute.
you. I appreciate it.
Okay. Okay. Oh, Sherry Wallace, if you don't mind
Blue
me.
cheese in my hand. Diane.
Okay. Well, this was one of my biggest takeaways from being at Leaders Retreat was to be committed, to be consistent, and to be creative. And that's really all that it takes. I'm getting close to my destination, and I wanted to give you guys actually a few minutes to ask me anything. And if there's something that you're struggling with, if I can help out, I would love to. If anybody wants to hop off of mute and ask a question, you're more than welcome to, and I would love to help. Okay, well, I'll finish it off with this story. At Leaders Retreat, something that I found interesting was nature, and I absolutely love to be close to nature. While being at the beach, you'd imagine finding a lot of shells, and we did, and in some of those shells, you had these hermit crab. The hermit crab are really funny to me because as they continue to grow, they're starting to outgrow their shell. And at the point that they outgrow their shell, at first, I thought that they had to be naked and vulnerable for a very long period of time. And that was going to be the point of my story, that to step into your new greatness, you have to become extremely vulnerable to the world. And that is true. But when I went home, I decided to do a little bit of research and got on the good old YouTube University and saw a documentary on BBC about the hermit crabs and how they go about the process of actually stepping into a new shell. And it was really interesting because it plays a big part into the story of Renatus and leadership and your way up to pack, which is essentially one of the goals that we all have. Or maybe you don't, but it would be a great thing to aspire to, is to be on pack. What happens with a hermit crab is that a shell will be washed onto the shore and they will spot it from afar. They will all come running towards the little shell. When there's a little group of hermit crab, they'll look at each other and see who's who, what's what, as in who's got the biggest shell right now. Then they'll line up from smallest shell to biggest shell. And what they'll do is they will find the biggest crab to take over the shell that they just found, and then the smaller crab is right behind him, and the smaller right behind him, because they're going to step into each other's shell. Lit team, pit team, and pack team are sometimes just those shells. And as people in leadership are moving on to greatness, you as a brand new IMA, take in that shell. Go in. We are passing the torch for you to grow. This is the safest environment to land and the absolute best environment to grow. I can't say it enough that Renatus is a self-development company, program, and strategy disguised as real estate education. For you to be at the kind of wealth that you're looking for, you need to be the kind of person that deserves it. The kind of person who can attract that. And with it comes a lot of self-development. Hence why I'm also going to a self-development. With that being said, ladies and gentlemen, and my fellow Renutians, I love you guys so much. This is the best thing that's happened since sliced bread. I look forward to Thursday's night's meeting and connecting with everybody since we got back from Panama. Let's not miss next Leaders Retreat. October, we have regionals, and nationals is in April. Let's go, guys. You guys have a fantastic day. Bye-bye now.